And so to the first recipe, which uses some of those new ingredients, designer mushrooms, for a meal that's perhaps family supper round the kitchen table. I'm using large flat mushrooms. I've cooked them on one side in a little olive oil, and now to the second side for a few moments, and I'll turn up the heat, and I'm going to lift those out into a dish and then top them with the mushrooms. And you can do this ahead and then put them in the fridge, so you can cook them just as they are. Put this dish in the fridge, let it get cold and cover it with clear film, and then you put the other mushrooms on top. But first of all, I'm going to take a shallot with a little butter and cook it in the pan. Now, I have cut my shallots very, very finely, and they really will only take a few moments. Maybe yours won't be quite as fine as that, and they'll take a little bit longer. Just whiz them round the pan. And in with the shallot, I've got 1 clove of garlic, which I've finely crushed. So it's tender, I can feel it squashing down. And now to the mushrooms. I'm going to add some shiitake mushrooms, and I've just sliced those, and some oyster mushrooms and some chestnut mushrooms, and about 100 grams of each. Now to the cream, and I'm using creme fraiche. I give that a good stir and season it with salt and pepper. And if you've taken the stalks off the bottom of the big mushrooms, just toss those in as well. You see, I'm using lots of pepper because we haven't been told it's bad for us. And then those stalks finely chopped. And a little lemon juice. That just sharpens it up. Juice of about half a lemon. So give that a stir and let it bubble up until it's a sauce consistency, and then put it on top of the mushrooms. Now, if you're doing that ahead, you would get it to a perfect consistency, put it in a bowl in the fridge, and then you would reheat them, assembling them in the dish and putting them in a hot oven.
The perfect way to start with what I like to call designer mushrooms on field mushrooms. You might be bored with carrot soup, but I've added some spices to give it a kick. Serve with gremolata made from fresh parsley, grated lemon rind and garlic. And try this delicious honey-glazed walnut bread. Now for a main course idea.
Paprika Chicken Supreme. In the pan, I've got 6 chicken breasts, and I've browned them on one side. That was for about 5 minutes. And then I'm turning them over to cook the other side. They want to be that nice light brown colour with no skin and no bone on these chicken breasts. It's a perfect convenience too. Turn the next one over. They've been well seasoned, and I'm going to just let them get a light brown underneath. And then I'm going to make a sauce with these. But first of all, I'm going to add some paprika. Now, when you're choosing the paprika, choose a mild one. Sometimes it's called sweet, and I'm going to sprinkle in 2 tablespoons, 15 ml, level. And you'll notice this is a lovely bright colour. Wait a minute, and a teaspoon as well. And you always want to store spices in the dark. This is in a dark container because they're in glass jars. Keep them in the dark and they'll keep this lovely bright colour. And just keep those, mix that in well. That's it. And then lift those out. Just turn that one on to absorb one more of that. That's it. So it gives us a lovely bright colour. Then I'm going to put those on top of the onion that I've got here already cooked. Now, I've cooked the onion. It was a Spanish onion, a mild one, and I cooked that in a little butter until it was tender. Just arrange these diagonally. This dish is ideal because it's long and thin. Put them all the way down there. Now, if I give that a push, I'll just get it in. You'll notice that these are different sizes, these chicken breasts, and I rather like that because everybody's appetites are different. And then I'm going to deglaze the pan. Now, deglazing is a posh term that the chefs use, and it really means just getting all the gubbins out from the pan, but all that lovely flavouring and a little bit of butter that's left. And I'm adding a carton of creme fraiche, and it's a low-fat creme fraiche this time. If you want to make it even lower in fat, you can replace half the cream with stock, and then you'll need to thicken it a little with perhaps a scant teaspoonful of corn flour blended with the stock. Cover that with foil and cool it quickly, and you can keep that in the fridge for up to 24 hours before cooking it. But if you're going to cook it now, it'll take 20 minutes in a hot oven.
Here's another idea for a main course, lamb paysanne, with either a bone shoulder or leg of lamb. It's very easy to cook as you don't need to baste it, and the meat, onions, peppers and aubergines are all ready at the same time. The spinach filling is optional.
And now mega pasta shells. These are Italian, and in Italian they're called conchiglie, which literally means shells. I'm not very good at Italian, but that's I'm told is true. And you need to cook those in boiling salted water until they're just soft and ready to fill. And for the filling, I've got some spinach here, 225 grams of spinach, and you see it goes down to absolutely nothing. It started off in the frying pan at a great big bulk, and as soon as it's tossed in the butter, it goes down to that. And I'm going to add some mascarpone cheese, and that's a rich cream cheese from Italy. And then to give it lots of flavour, some Parmesan cheese. Now, Parmesan cheese has changed over the years. It's now much softer when you buy it in the block, and it's easily grated on any grater. Then I'm going to add some fresh basil, just torn leaves, and mash it down with some egg. And the egg sets upon cooking. Then lots of black pepper and salt, and then a little nutmeg, and it's nice to have fresh nutmeg. I keep mine up here, I know where it is, and I put it back there when I've finished. I think this was Granny's, and it works beautifully even though it's so old. And you can buy new ones now in the kitchen shops, and it makes a jolly nice present instead of a box of chocolates. Less fattening. Then put that back ready for next time. Always best to buy nutmeg whole because it keeps for 50 years, whereas the ground you really should buy a new container after about a year. So mash that down. Well, you know when this is ready, it will be all one sort of green colour and no big white lumps. That's it. Then take the cooked pasta shells. I've tried making this with not cooking the pasta, and it never really got soft. I thought because with lasagna you don't need to cook it nowadays, but it didn't work, so you need to cook it first. Then arrange those in a dish, and I made a tomato sauce, quite a runny tomato sauce with a good flavour, and I've made that using canned chopped tomatoes and a little tomato puree, and you can use vegetable stock, and then this would be a jolly nice dish for those who don't enjoy eating meat. So put those in. Then the sauce is made, most of it's underneath, and then I'm going to put the rest of it on top, sort of filling the gaps. And then you need to cook this in a hot oven, and that's about 200 degrees centigrade. Gas mark 6, and it'll take about 20 minutes. In an Aga, that's on the roasting oven grid shelf on the floor.
If you'd like to freeze this, the best thing is to freeze the stuffed shells and the sauce separately. Serve it piping hot, scattered with fresh Parmesan shavings and basil leaves.
And here's an idea for a pud. It's a Canterbury tart. It's a flan, rather like tart au citron, but with masses of apples in too. I've got a little trick about rolling out the pastry here. I've taken the base of the flan tin, and here it is under here, and rolled out the pastry larger. Now, when I was taught to do pastry, I always had to roll it round the rolling pin and lift it into the flan tin, but really this is far easier. So I've got the base underneath, so lift that onto the top like that, and it makes it much easier. Right, now lift this back to the top, all the way around, and even if it cracks, you can patch it up. I'm pushing it down, and it's a little bit larger than the actual plan. And now to the ingredients in the pastry. I used 225 grams of flour, and then I rubbed in 100 grams of butter and 25 grams of icing sugar, which I've sieved. And I rubbed that all together, and you can do it by machine or by hand, and until it resembles a crumble mix. Then mix it together, not with water this time, but with beaten egg, and that makes it set well when it's cooked. Then to get the pastry off the top, take a rolling pin and roll it over the top. Like that, all the way along.
Decorate the edge, prick the base and chill. Then for the apple and lemon filling, you'll need 4 eggs, 225 grams of caster sugar, the rind and juice of 2 lemons mixed with 100 grams of warm melted butter. Then grate in 4 large Bramley cooking apples which have been peeled and cored. Give it all a good mix. And then pour the filling into the pastry case. Add a topping of sliced dessert apples and demerara sugar. Cook on a hot baking sheet for about half an hour at 190, a bit less in a fan oven, or on the floor of the roasting oven of the Aga.
I'm lucky enough to be able to grow my own herbs, and what a difference they make to my cooking. Not only in the recipe, but they make it look so attractive as well. The herbs that I grow here are all culinary herbs. My most favourite herb, and I'm sure it's yours too, is parsley. Some people have difficulty in growing parsley, and indeed I did till a few years ago, and I learnt a good way to do it. I make a flat trench on the earth and then rake that across. Then I get a kettle of boiling water and pour that over the top in a zigzag, and while it's still steaming, I sprinkle the seeds over the top. And you can mix flat parsley with curly parsley, it doesn't matter, they seem to germinate, and it's nice to have the two. And then while it's steaming, you want to put John Innes over the top, or you could, if you're industrious, sift soil over the top. And then within 10 days, in really warm weather, the seeds will begin to come through. Another of my great favourites is basil. Now basil, I have to admit, is jolly tricky to grow. Don't attempt to even sow the seeds unless the weather is very, very warm, because it won't germinate at all. And if you chicken out and you perhaps see some in the supermarket and it's rather squat, you can transplant those little plants and just transplant them in a long row, and they'll be very satisfactory. But don't forget, they need a lot of watering. And then as you pick it, whether it's on the windowsill or a plant that you've bought, take out the tops like that, just pinch out the tops, and then where you've taken the little sprig from the plant, it will then bush out again, and you'll have more basil as the time goes on. And water it perhaps as you do your plants, house plants, with a little fertiliser, and you'll be rewarded. When I think of fresh mint, I think of new potatoes and mint sauce, but there's more to mint than that. It's delicious when you just shred up the leaves and add it to a leaf salad. And I've got a new recipe, Seville minted chicken with marmalade, which is one that you shouldn't miss. Then rosemary. Rosemary is a natural with lamb. I put a whole sprigs on top of lamb for the barbecue or roasted. But if you're putting it in a casserole, shred up the leaves rather than putting a whole sprig in. If you put the whole sprig in, you'll be left at the end with a bunch of sticks and long spears that'll get in between your teeth. So chop up the sprigs first.
And finally, sage, usually used dried in stuffings and things like that, but you can use fresh sage, whether it's just the grey-leafed or the red, and it's delicious in dishes. So first of all, a fashionable warm salad which uses chicken livers and fresh sage leaves.
First, make the salad, which can be prepared ahead. Choose various salad leaves, these are fresh from the garden, and just arrange them on a flat plate and cover them with clear film, and then stack them up in the fridge, and you can do that up to 6 hours ahead. So that's one stage ready. And now to the chicken liver part. I've chosen to use fresh chicken livers. They're really a very good buy. You can buy enough for 6, that's 450 grams for under £1. And you need to snip out any little bits of membrane and then they're ready to cook. Whereas if they're frozen ones, you'll find they're a bit wet to handle. Now to the sage leaves, and to fry them, just put a little oil in, and I'm using sunflower oil, and you'll need about 3 tablespoons. Get that nice and hot, and then take the sage leaves and fry them. Now take them out just while they're still bright green, and they look a bit floppy now, but after a few minutes, if you look just here, they snap and they're crisp. And now to the bacon. I've got 175 grams of dry cured bacon, so there'll be no water coming out of the bacon when I fry it. And I've got 3 slices of wholemeal bread, fairly thick, cut into cubes. So they'll make a bit of a fuss when I add them. There, those are lovely and crispy brown. Now, if you wish, you can make those croutons ahead. If you like Caesar salad or have a lot of soups, make croutons, and you can do a whole loaf at a time if you like, and put them into the freezer. Then all you've got to do is just warm them and serve them ready before whatever you're going to use them. Now to the liver. I've still got a little bit of fat left in the pan, and I'm going to add some butter as well to give it a good flavour. About 25 grams of butter going in there. And then in goes the liver. So let's tip the butter about a bit. Don't let it get too brown. It's just taking a little colour there, and then in goes the liver. Spread that over and keep turning that. These look just right to me. The cooking time of the chicken livers will vary according to how you like them. 2 minutes if you like them fairly pink in the middle, or 3 if you like them well done. So I'm going to season those with salt and pepper. And I'm going to add some balsamic vinegar. Now, balsamic vinegar you use very little because it is very strong, and like sherry vinegar. I'm only going to use a tablespoon. It's matured in oak barrels for several years, and that's why it's such a lovely flavour. So just a meagre, it's a lovely dark colour. And over the heat for a second, and that's ready to serve.
Top with the fried sage leaves and serve immediately.
Pak choy are now one of the newer vegetables appearing in the supermarket. In fact, they're quite easy to grow at home, and I found mine germinated very quickly. If it's a big like these, you shred the leaves and then divide the bulb in about 4. And if they're very little tiny ones, you can cook them whole. I'm doing a pak choy and shiitake mushroom stir fry. You can get everything ready ahead, perhaps put it on a board, all prepared, and cover it with clear film, and it'll stay in the fridge for up to 6 hours. And then when it comes to the cooking, well, it just takes a few minutes.
So get the wok very hot, add some sesame or sunflower oil and stir fry a selection of vegetables. I've got red peppers, spring onions, lemongrass, garlic, fresh root ginger and 1 small red fresh chilli. This stage just takes a minute. Then in go the pak choy stem halves, followed by some sliced shiitake mushrooms for that oriental theme. Reduce the heat, cover and cook for 2 or 3 minutes. Then tip in the pak choy leaves. Add 2 tablespoonfuls of oyster sauce, widely available in shops. Add soy sauce. Give it all a good stir, just long enough to get everything hot. The longest part of this recipe will be finding your wok. Like all stir fries, serve immediately. And now, bruschetta marinara. You start with 6 slices of French bread and brush both sides with olive oil. Mix 2 tablespoonfuls of parsley, olive oil and garlic. Top the bread and bake for about 5 minutes until crisp. Meanwhile, fry 1 onion, 1 clove of garlic with 50 grams of button mushrooms, then the contents of a pack of mixed seafood that you can now get from the supermarket, or make up your own mixture. After 2 minutes, stir in 150 ml of double cream and simmer until reduced. Take the pan off the heat, check the seasoning and add some lemon juice. Spoon the seafood mixture on the toast, bruschetta marinara.
Mango passion, an exotic fruit dessert that's very quick to prepare. I've got a mango here, and to tell whether it's right, you can't tell by the colour, but you can tell by just pressing it, and it gives, and you know that it's ripe. So I'm going to take the stone out. The stone looks like that, and that's what I'm aiming to remove, and it's in the middle. So I'm going to cut either side of that stone, cutting above it first of all, with a sharp knife over the top, and then you'll feel it give on top of that stone, and let it come out the other side, like that. Then you'll just see the stone there. Isn't that a wonderful, brilliant colour? Then turn it the other way up and go above the stone and do a sort of sawing action. So I'm feeling over the top of that till I get to the other side, and I get the second half. And then you go to get that stone out. You just run the knife around the outside and take the skin off and chop up it. Now I've chosen to do it in a glass because you can see through it and you know exactly what it's like. You could use an ordinary wine glass for this. I'm thinking about halfway up, or you could do it in a ramekin. And the good thing about this is that you can prepare it at least 8 hours ahead. Now for the topping, I'm going to put some passion fruit. Now there's a passion fruit there, or cut in half. You can see those little seeds, but they should look like this one, really wrinkly, and you know that that's ready. So in the bowl here, I've got 3 passion fruits and just the pips and the flesh. Then I've got the Greek yogurt, and that is 500 ml carton of Greek yogurt and 150 ml of single thick cream. I'm going to mix all those together. They go quite easily together. They sort of become a pale yellow colour. That's it. And you just dollop that on top of the mango. There it goes.
Sprinkle with light muscovado sugar an hour or so before serving. That's mango passion.